Welcome to the Modern Manifestation Podcast. I'm your host, Bree Brown, a business mindset coach, entrepreneur, and a top competitor in a male-dominated industry. I'm a native Texan, the youngest of all brothers, and a lettuce-hating, wine-loving, curses-like-a-sailor recovering perfectionist. I've spent over a decade building my commission-based career, and my life's purpose is helping other women achieve the same multi-six-figure success I achieved before I was 25. I have a passion for helping women with mindset, money, and manifestation skills to help every young woman realize her full potential. If you're looking for vulnerable conversations, professional development, inspiration, or even a kick in the ass to get you motivated, you have come to the right place. Thanks for checking out the Modern Manifestation Podcast. Now let's jump right in to today's topic. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Modern Manifestation Podcast. Today, we are jumping into the 9th of the universal laws, the Law of Relativity. And I cannot believe that we're almost done with this series, guys. We only have like 3 more to get through. So if you are tuning in for the first time, welcome. And I recommend that you at least go back to episode number 56, because that's where we started going over the 12 laws, and they build upon one another. So I highly recommend starting there and working your way up. Of course, you're welcome to go back to episode number 1 if you're really feeling it. Totally won't stop you. But at least episode number 56 to help you get a well-rounded view of how all of these work together. And one more thing before we jump in, I plan to do another round of top manifestation FAQs as a podcast episode. So if there are some burning questions that I didn't get to in the last FAQ episode, DM me on Instagram at Modern Manifestation. That way I can get to all the questions that you guys have that I haven't yet covered. Okay, let's jump into it. The Law of Relativity states that every person will experience challenges as an opportunity for growth, to strengthen our character. So you can think of the Law of Relativity as a reality check, because shit might suck for a bit, but there is a point to the sucking. And the point is that it's meant to bring out our higher selves so that we can learn and grow from the things that suck. And I know you're probably already thrilled about this law. Sounds so fun, right? Like, oh, great, I get to experience things that suck in life. Awesome. Honestly, it's not the most favored law, but it just gets a bad rap because most people don't want to have to experience challenges in order to grow. We're resistant to it. We really have a society that resists challenge, or that resists these hard things that we have to go through. But challenges are necessary for growth and for bringing fulfillment to our lives. And this is why people who are given everything without any challenges often find themselves doing a whole lot of soul searching later in life. They struggle to feel fulfilled. Feel fulfilled. Man, that's one of those. That is a tongue twister. And that's another reason why having a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be happy, because sometimes it's all about how you got there in the first place. So challenges allow us to develop our characters and to gain clarity on our purpose and our passions in life. So life would be a hell of a lot more boring without challenges, or even the perception of challenges, right? Because a challenge for you might not be a challenge for someone else. This is all like a range on a spectrum of what we individually consider as challenges. And perspective is everything when it comes to this law. So by nature of this law, you will have, at multiple points throughout your life, an experience that will test you. And it might test your character, integrity, kindness, honesty, stamina, values. It can come from anywhere. And the idea is that it'll test an issue that you either need to master or to heal in this lifetime. So how you show up and how you respond to these hard experiences, to these challenges, will determine whether or not you're able to move on to the next thing, or if you need to repeat the same lesson again in another form. I'm going to say that again. If you don't learn the lesson initially, you'll keep repeating the same cycle until you learn that lesson. So if you ever find yourself or a friend dating that same asshole in a new body every few months or every few years, that might be a challenge that is showing up for you again and again until you learn what it is that you need to learn from those jerks so that you're no longer attracting them to yourself. So maybe the lesson is boundaries, or loving yourself, or having a greater appreciation for the characteristics in people that you maybe didn't see before. It's our responsibility to recognize these so that we can speed up the process of learning and growing. And the longer we're unaware of our habits, or at least our bad habits, and the lessons that we need to learn from them, the longer it takes us to grow and change and move on to the next thing. So if you're feeling stuck anywhere in your life, maybe look to see where you may have avoided a challenge. The human experience is all about growth and learning from our mistakes in this life. And if it weren't, we'd be living in a utopia. We'd be able to create that. But that's not what this life is about for us. And that may be really hard to hear, right? Like if you're a perpetual optimist, that statement might be a little jarring for you, but it's coming from a place of love. And here's why. I believe that we're not supposed to have a utopia. I believe we are meant to live really imperfect lives here on earth so that we can have this raw human experience and all the beautiful and the tough emotions that come with it. And I think that makes life more enjoyable. I think when you've had a set of experiences in life that you had to grow from or that challenged you, it allows you to appreciate more what you have. It allows you to appreciate life more. It allows you to feel more fulfilled and caring and grateful for all the things that we have. It's the perspective, right? It allows us to say, yeah, I experienced that once in the past and then I overcame it and now I'm here and it's so much better. And that perspective, that difference between where you were and where you are is what brings us fulfillment. It's what helps us generate resilience. It's that comparison that we need, honestly. We need that comparison in this life to know how good we have it when the moments are good. And that doesn't mean that we won't go back to challenging moments again in the future. But again, it's just allowing us to have that reference point, that place of comparison, that wow, I'm so grateful for, because this is what I've experienced in the past. So it's a beautiful way to remind us to have that reality check of what this life is about. And when we withstand challenges that are thrown our way and we overcome them, we raise our vibrations to a whole new level. So in a way, it's kind of like we're like real life gamers in a way, right? Leveling up each time we grow from a set of challenges, allowing ourselves to acquire new tools or new vibrations that people at the lower levels aren't yet ready for, or they haven't mastered their own challenges yet to get to where you might be. And you're not going to be where someone else might be because you still have challenges you need to experience before you go up. So it's like this life is really just about leveling up from one stage to another. And that's why we're able to look at the past and say, wow, look how far I've come. And imagine what you'll be able to look back on in 10 years. These kinds of challenges are what create a meaningful experience for us. And when we get to these new and higher levels, we can then want more, attract more, and be more for ourselves. So the thing I love about this law is that by this narrative, there are no setbacks. They can't exist because they're only opportunities for growth. And it's really hard to be pessimistic when that's your mindset. And I think that's beautiful. You know, I honestly like to consider this like the underdog of the universal laws. Like I'm totally here for this law. And it's so misunderstood. But to me, this is a law that is like the most humanistic of all of them. This is the most relatable, the most realistic, I would say. This is where life happens. This is how we train to be the best versions of ourselves. This law is like a training course for our souls. So I love this law. It reminds me that everything negative I'm experiencing is an opportunity somewhere. And I might not see it right now, but in the future I will. I'll see the growth later, and that's okay. So this allows me to shift my perspective so that I'm genuinely more of a happy and optimistic person overall. And I'm not saying that like every day I'm this optimistic, peppy person. I'm definitely not. But it allows me to get there more often. And that I think is awesome. And we'll all still have our moments, right? But this can help us teach us more about that resilience and that gray area between negativity and positivity. Because sometimes things just are, right? And that's okay. And when we're allowed to sit in the beingness of some of these negative things, like, yeah, this really sucks. And there might be something here for me to learn. So being in that area between the negativity and the positivity can sometimes be where we can reflect on our own issues in order for us to get to that growth. We have the capacity to accept the bad, to accept the challenges. And we can utilize these lessons as a means to move forward within a higher vibration. So this law encourages us to live a life with confidence as opposed to playing the victim, to be curious about what growth there is to be had instead of why all the things happened to us the way they did. We're going to experience varying levels of challenges no matter what, according to this law. So it's our perspective and our reaction to these things that shape who we become. So when we play the victim, we experience the same lessons again and again because we're not getting the point. And I know I've talked about this story before in an Instagram post, so this might be a repeat story for some of you, and if you're not following me on Instagram, this will be a new story. But I once had a friend who chose to live in this victim narrative, and they really held it close to their identity. And their focus in life was all about looking back to their past, every shitty thing that ever happened to them. They just dwelled in that past trauma. They didn't deal with it. They weren't trying to move through it. They weren't working on it. They were just stuck in it. And as a result, they created hundreds of opportunities where they were able to maintain that identity. They couldn't hold a job because of so-and-so. They couldn't hold a partner because that partner had this, and this wrong with them. They always felt taken advantage of, whether it was by their parents, other coworkers, friends, partners, the local nail salon. There was always someone trying to take advantage of them, or always someone who did something to them so that they lost something else, because life wasn't fair. Nothing was their fault. They were so unlucky. And they expected bad things to keep happening to them. They were sitting in that and not looking for the opportunity for growth in that. They just wanted to marinate in the suckiness. And they couldn't let that victim mindset go. So they manifested more of it. And they couldn't get out of their own way. So they were just perpetuating that cycle of challenges, not learning, not growing, not moving on, not up-leveling, just staying stuck. And eventually, all of our friends became the center of that person's misfortunes at some point, because suddenly their success wasn't possible because of ours. And at that point, they started losing the remainder of the healthy relationships in their lives. And it was really, really hard for me, honestly, because I wanted to keep trying to help that person, but I also couldn't keep sacrificing myself for it. Not just like my time, but also the mental burden of always thinking and worrying about that person. And then giving them advice and having it not being taken, and then being frustrated with the things they're not doing to help themselves. So I learned the lesson that I had to break contact with that person, even though they were a childhood friend, because I had to set my own boundaries about how I was going to be treated within a relationship. And that was the law of relativity showing up for me. It gave me a really hard challenge where I had to say goodbye to someone that I thought was going to be in my life forever. But I had to learn the lesson that those who claim to love you most can leave the deepest scars. They can hurt you more than your enemies. And it's okay to end relationships that are not healthy, whether or not they're in your family or whether or not they're a childhood friend. And I don't remember a single time I'd put myself first in that relationship until that moment, until I ended it. And it taught me a valuable lesson about honoring my own mental and emotional health needs and putting myself first when I needed to. And what's awesome is I've been able to translate that into other parts of my life as well. I've been able to show up for myself and ask for the things that I need more often. And I've been able to hold that boundary more firmly because I now have a better understanding of it. So I don't waste as much time anymore trying to fix things or people because I realize that that's theirs and not mine to deal with. And that's what that challenge taught me. And I've had other friends that had to do this with family members too. And their actions are not exempted just because they're related to you. This is hard, and there are no rules or playbooks to reference. So recognize these kinds of challenges as opportunities to reflect and grow, and they can show up in any part of your life. The biggest law this lesson can teach us is to adopt a curious mindset instead of a victim mindset. So anytime I fall into this victim mindset, which was literally last weekend for me, like I had this moment, I was just really feeling the suck. So I first let myself sit in that suckness, right? Because I had to have like a little pity party for myself to honor those emotions. I didn't want to suppress them, so I had to sit there in that shitty feeling for a couple days. And when I was ready to move on, I then started by comparing my misfortunes to worse things that other people were going through. And I know this sounds really backward, but it's honestly, it's really helpful for me, and I'm sharing this in the event that it might be helpful for you. Because this can really help you put things into perspective. Like, if I'm upset that my back is really causing me serious pain, I remind myself that someone else can't even feel their back. Someone else is paralyzed and would trade places with me in a heartbeat. Or if I'm upset that I hit a pole in a parking garage, I remind myself that owning my car is a luxury and that some people would give anything for that. And if I'm upset about my weight, I remind myself that I'm healthy and someone else might not even have the food readily available to have this concern. And these kind of reality checks help me have more compassion for my situation, more gratitude that things aren't worse. And I know that seems like a very pessimistic way to look at it, but honestly, it helps me get back more to the positive. So even if I have to sit in that pessimism for like a second in order to get back and live my life in the more optimistic side, then that's what it takes. And this change in perspective allows me to react less and grow more. So if you're in a victim mindset, try to play around with that for yourself. See, what is the situation that someone else has worse than mine? Like, first, honor your emotions, right? Sit in the suck, and then start to go through this process. And see if that kind of helps you a little bit. See if that just brings you one level up the emotional guidance scale, right? It's another podcast episode if you want to check that one out. Someone, somewhere, always has it worse. No exceptions. Perspective is key. And when things are bad for you, remind yourself what you're grateful for anyway, because gratitude is a great way to get yourself out of those shitty emotions, even when things feel really hard. When things are hard, look for the weakness, look for the challenge that offers growth. This law conditions us to move to a higher frequency, and we can't fake our way there, and we can't want it badly enough. We have to become it by going through these life changes, these challenges to help us get there. And we can't fake those challenges, right? We can't sit on the couch and level up that way. We have to have enough experiences that allow us to grow, to elevate. And if life were easy, we wouldn't have these experiences that force this emotional evolution. We would be stuck and feeling unfulfilled and bored. And if you're feeling like this right now, maybe ask yourself if there's a challenge that you might be avoiding. Is there something that's making you stay in that stuckness because you're afraid of something? You're afraid of failure. Our time on this earth is intended to give us an experience that is specifically catered to us and what we need to learn as individuals. So sit with your past failures and see what lessons you may have missed. Challenges allow us to become stronger in every way. And they are never evidence that the universe is against you, I promise. And this is not the same as resistance, right? Resistance is different. That's something we talk about in other podcast episodes. Challenges simply allow us to look at other areas of our lives where we could use more resilience, empathy, understanding, patience, love, acceptance, kindness, courage, you name it. It's saying, hey, you might need to apply more compassion here. Here's what that might look like. Here's how this challenge can help you grow, help you up-level. So using this law, failure cannot exist. Failure is never failure because there is always beauty in the fall. There's always something to be learned. There's always an opportunity for growth in that. To fail forward, to fail brilliantly. Resilience is a key to a life of fulfillment, and challenges and struggles help us build this resilience so we can appreciate life more. So Law of Relativity is really helping us appreciate and become grateful for the things we have. So use this law to empower you to go after everything you want, because you're going to fail in this life anyway. So you might as well going after the things that really fucking matter to you. No one, absolutely no one, can avoid failure their entire life. When we avoid going after the things we want because we're afraid of this failure, we end up perpetuating the biggest life challenge of all, failing to try. Failing to experience the failure required to grow. The law of relativity is the law that requires challenges and failure in exchange for higher vibrations and beauty in this life. So fail greatly, fail often, and fail forward. Your fulfillment in this life depends on it. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoy my shows, it would mean a lot to me if you could spend a minute giving me a star review on Apple Podcasts. 1, 5, I don't care. I would love to hear your feedback wherever it is that you tune in. Those reviews mean a lot to me and they really help me keep going. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will catch y'all next Monday. Until then, go out there and manifest some miracles. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this podcast, hit subscribe so you can stay up to date with new episodes. As always, we would love it if you would share this episode with friends and family who could use the inspiration. As a new podcast show, we would really appreciate your honest feedback so I know what you like and what you could use more of. As a thank you for leaving us a rating, we will send you our 7 weekly tips to create space for abundance. Make sure you screenshot your review and email it to us at hello@themodernmanifestation.com so we can send them straight to your inbox. If you'd like to stay connected, you can find us on Instagram or Facebook at Modern Manifestation, or you can head to our website at themodernmanifestation.com. Thanks again for joining me, and I will catch y'all in the next episode.